Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for stopping by. This is Dawn, and I wanted to talk about something that is kind of difficult to talk about. Not that it's just difficult in that it's a little complicated. I really like black and white, where I can say, okay, in this situation you do this, and it's always you do this. But what I'm going to talk about is not so clear, black and white. And I'm sure a lot of us have um, dealt with somebody like this. So I did a video series, a playlist about my experience as Keith Green's daughter. That's my foster father. And he was a prophet of God. A lot of people, that's what they call him. He was the leader of Last Days Ministries. It's a ministry that he started, and being very religious, fundamental, evangelical. His personality was one of being in your face, no compromise, willing to make you mad at him for telling you the truth. That was his mindset. However, it was the way he delivered it, I'll put it that way. The way he delivered his message a lot of times was very damaging, toxic, and very unkind. And so after I made that series of videos, and I was on a podcast, I was interviewed on a podcast, Feet of Clay. When I was after that, I did get some feedback from people, and there were a couple of people. One of them was, Keith Green's friend, longtime friend they went to high school together, and so they have known each other for a long time. And he really, along with this other woman, just had a difficult time grasping that there was a dark side to Keith. Maybe not grasping, but unwilling to accept. I'll put it that way. So the one lady said that, he was a prophet of God, and she was really struggling with that he did these hurtful, harmful things. She didn't want to accept that. And the longtime friend grappled with it too, because he didn't want to see it. I don't think. That's my personal opinion of that. His feedback was that, why don't you be more positive to kind of balance things out? You're all negative about Keith. When I hear that, I hear, it's not really that bad, Dawn. Stop complaining about it. He was a man of God. That's just the way he was. He was a prophet. And prophets are that way. They're just in your face. So just accept it. And in Keith's mind, if it bothered you, the way he, that he delivered this message to you, that was on you. That is because you're in sin, and that's why it bothered you. So I really believe the whole prophet of God thing is to be an excuse for poor behavior. Now, I will say this, that I knew Keith's parents. They were, I love you at the top of my lungs. They're always yelling. Sometimes they were yelling out of anger. Sometimes they were yelling just to say, hey, this is the way it is. Harv, did you take out the garbage? I mean, yelling at the top of her lungs. No, Shar, I haven't done it yet. Well, when are you gonna do it? That kind of thing. Just yelling at each other. And that's the way they were. For somebody who didn't grow up in that would feel very uncomfortable. It would be uncomfortable for me. It really would. So, yes, he grew up in that, but that doesn't make it okay. Just because that's part of his personality doesn't make it okay. if I'm driving my car and I run into your car, do a lot of damage, well, it's, a mistake. I didn't mean it. It wasn't my intention. So you have to let me off the hook? I don't think so. I'm still responsible for the damage, right? But I'm a prophet of God. So anyway, I know it's a serious thing because there are people, and I believe Keith was one of them, that did not understand how he was harmful, how he was hurting people and damaging people. And I believe if he really understood it, he would have changed. He would have tried to change. And he would have confessed. He would have admitted it. He would have spent time agonizing over it if he truly understood. I don't think he understood because he was caught up in the prophet of God thing. And the prophet of God people are, no compromise, and they're going to tell you you're in sin right to your face and not care what you think about it. That was his mentality. And he thought if you didn't like it, that was on you. That was your fault. That was your problem. You needed to get with God and repent. So there. What do you do with that? What do you do with somebody who is toxic, who is emotionally damaging people? What do you do with that? They don't know it. So in my situation, if Keith were still alive, he passed on when I was 17. What I would say to him is basically, because he was religious, because he was, wanting to help people, and his desire to be the best prophet of God, I would have come up to him and said, you know what you said to me about wishing I was as mature as Ruth, who is 14 years old, 2 years younger than I was. You saying that, there's no love in that. It's not productive. And you need to get right with that. Yes, I would. Now I could do that. I could not do that back then because he was a scary dude to a lot of people because of that prophet of God, in your face, no compromise kind of attitude and personality. He was not approachable. And that's a great way to be a cult leader, right? Because nobody's going to call you on your shit because they're scared. So, but that's what I would say. There's no love in your comment and what you just said to me. It's not productive. It doesn't help me. If you're trying to help me, let's sit down and talk about it in private. You doing this in public and to other people in public. There's no love in that. There's no love in being in somebody's face and telling them they're a bad father. I have a story. I just found this out. There's a married couple that came to Last Days Ministries. They had 2 sons, and the one of the sons was misbehaving. Keith called him, the father, a bad parent. Now this is a man who already had depression issues, and there is nobody in the ministry that I remember who was in a place that they could handle that. They had no one with that kind of education that could counsel somebody who had depression. So he told this guy, you're a bad father for not spanking your child. So what he did is he gathered a group of people together, and he had this father pull down the pants. Why you have to pull the pants down? That's added, shame. That's adding shame to the whole situation of being spanked in the first place. So he had the father pull down the kid's pants and spank him on his bare bottom. Now the kid's crying. The father's crying. He's in public in front of all of these people being shown off as a bad father because he wouldn't hit his children, his boy, to correct the boy's behavior. That, wow. Sorry. It's just, wow, there's no love in that. There is absolutely no effing love in doing that. So anyway, the couple ended up leaving the ministry. I do remember that. I don't remember being a part of that public spanking. But I do remember them leaving, and gave them a little party and sending them off. And later, the wife left him. He committed suicide. He had depression issues. Nobody could help him with that. And publicly shaming the father and the son. Can you imagine having to get your pants pulled down and spanked in public? What is that? There's no love in that. And that's what I have to say to this person, is confront them and say, there's no love in what you just told me, what you just said. It's not productive. It doesn't help me. It doesn't help anybody. So I wanted to share that because I'm sure a lot of people run into somebody like that, people like that are, well, I would not call Keith narcissist, but a lot of narcissists are very toxic, and they're unaware of it. They really do not understand how they are hurting other people. And with a narcissist, I don't know if there's any way to fix some of them. I believe, from what I've read and what I understand, is that there's a mental illness there and they need help. And some of them are rehabilitatable, and I think there are quite a few that are not. They just are not. They cannot get their head around how they are harming other people. They're preserving themselves. They're taking care of themselves. They're protecting themselves. So it really depends on the situation. If you know that person would receive that message, and I believe Keith would, he would have. And like I said, I don't believe he was a narcissist. He did not have that kind of personality. But with a narcissist, you have to be very, very careful, because they could be very dangerous, because they have a lot of them, I'm not going to put them all in the same category because I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. So I don't know. I'm not professional in that area. So I just say that a lot of them, I believe, are not rehabilitatable. And if you confront them, they could become very harmful and very toxic and very dangerous even. Okay. So because they don't care about you. And they don't care if they destroy your life, if they destroy your family. They don't care. It just makes them feel better, makes them feel safe, and that's why they do it. Okay? So I just want to put that out there, that there are actually a lot of people who do things they don't understand why they're doing it, or that they're toxic, or that they're harming anybody. They don't understand that. They see it as self-preservation, and a lot of times it's revenge. It's just getting back at you, or what they perceive as you doing something to them. And a lot of it is perception. So it's a toxic world we live in. It's pretty crazy, and so I don't know. I mean, things are getting pretty extreme. I'll put it that way. Extreme here in the US, but I would imagine it seems like it's blowing up in Europe as well, that there are a lot of very toxic people, racists, misogynists, xenophobes. There's just a lot of stuff going on right now, a lot of fear. I will say this, that there's something going on with the sun. It's very, very active. And I think they expect the peak to be in 2024. Sorry. Where am I? What's the date? Time travel. And the activity of the sun can make people more on edge, stress, anxiety, and angry. And it may be why we're seeing so many people freak out on an airplane and just start beating up on people or being hateful or trying to open the door while they're in the air. What's up with that? Where does that come from? That freaks me out. Somebody actually wants to open the door of the airplane and get out when they're 30,000 feet off the ground. So anyway, it's a crazy world we live in. We have to do the best we can to stay calm. I have felt a lot of anxiety, which could be part of the menopause thing. Cortisol gets a little out of balance sometimes with menopause and postmenopause. So it's a balancing act. The best way to deal with anxiety that I am aware of, besides getting with a life coach or a counselor or somebody to find out where this might be coming from. It could be a childhood belief that is leaving you vulnerable to anxiety. Otherwise, it could be just hormones are not balanced. Cortisol is out of balance, estrogen out of balance. These things can make it easier to become anxious. So what I do is breathe deep. I notice myself breathing very shallow, especially around those times when I'm anxious. So if I catch myself breathing shallow, little breaths, short breaths, then I can catch it ahead of time and start breathing deeply. So there's something called the sympathetic system and the parasympathetic system. It's part of your nervous system. When you are anxious, you have your sympathetic nervous system has been activated. It is your fight or flight system to keep you safe. And if you do some things to activate and engage your parasympathetic nervous system, then you will feel much better, much more calm. So meditation, deep breathing, even yoga, things that make you feel calm, sitting in a sauna, hot bathtub, take a bath, a hot bubble bath, that's exciting and relaxing. And so anything that makes you feel joy, that brings you joy. So maybe it's baking some cookies, or maybe it's a cup of tea and reading a book. Whatever it is that helps you engage that parasympathetic nervous system, it's very important that you engage it as often as you are conscious of it. Especially now, like I said, the sun is pretty active right now. It's supposed to peak in 2024, which means we have all that time for it to go back down to I don't know, it's going to be I think, is it 11 years? Let me check. Yes, 11 years. And we're reaching the peak in 2024 from what I understand. So we have about, I don't know, 5 more years after that, 2029. I hope we don't kill each other. We don't have a nuclear war or something crazy like that. So it's called Maunder maximum. And all those physicists and scientists who say the planets don't have any effect on us, like astrology, that's woo-woo stuff, that's tinfoil hat stuff. Ask them about the sun. Does that affect us? What about the moon? I have a friend who used to work in a hospital, and he said that when the moon was full, they got more crazies. They got more accidents, and they saw a lot more people. So, I mean, planets do affect us, but scientists just haven't figured out how that happens. They don't realize it. So anyway, but a little off topic. But I wanted to mention the sun because it affects us. It affects how we feel. And so it may explain why there's so much violence right now with school shootings and crazy people and on airplanes wanting to open the door. Just a lot of conflict right now. I mean, we've got some crazy wars going on. some intense things happening in countries. I mean, we saw Iran, and I feel so bad about what's happening in Iran. All they do is they go around and kill people, keep killing the protesters until they go home. They don't care. They don't care. They want the rule of law. Our powerful position must be adhered to, must be respected. It's a lot of ego, guys. It's a lot of ego. Woo. Okay, so deep breaths. Practice rituals that are very calming. They can be very witchy. They can be very spiritual rituals that make you feel good about yourself and about your spiritual practice. I think those things are very important. And stay focused on doing things that bring you joy. Stay calm. And when you are calm, people around you will treat you differently. They will be more calm around you. And here's the thing, like when I was talking about confronting Keith, my foster father, if I do it in a way that I am filled with a lot of confidence and strength and love for myself, I could stand up to him and he would feel that. And that's what he looked for. So I will tell you this. This is what makes me think he was a cult leader. It's pushing me more towards he was a cult leader. Last Days Ministries was a cult. Keith said to his friend that I told you about, high school, all that, and I've heard him say this, that if you want to leave, your salvation is in jeopardy, will be in jeopardy if you left the ministry. He later kind of changed that, and he said, okay, if you want to leave, you have to look me in the eye and say and tell me that God told you you needed to leave, that it was good for you to leave. And I think what he was looking for is that strength and confidence. I know what I'm doing. Because when somebody is kind of shy and withdrawn, that doesn't feel safe, especially in a person who's a leader. That leader does not feel confident to me. It's going to make me feel a little unsettled, like, does this person know what they're doing? And I think that's what Keith was looking for. Do you know what you're doing? Or do you have a plan? Or are you wishy-washy? And I think it seems to me he was the kind of person, and I've seen this in other people, if you are weak, if you're shy, withdrawn, this type of person will mistreat you because they can't stand a weak person. And they're, in a way, and maybe this is unconscious, they're trying to punish that person for being so weak. You need to straighten up. You need to make decisions based on confidence. Anyway, just wanted to bring all that up and talk about it because it is squishy. It's not black and white. And it depends on the individual whether you can confront them or not. If they're a narcissist, if you don't know what that is, please do some research. If you come across somebody who's so self-centered and manipulative and all that, look it up on the internet and really get to know it. And please be careful with these people. They can be very dangerous. And again, because they don't care about you. All right. So that's it. I don't, that's the best I can do. Is if it's a person that is not a narcissist, I feel comfortable confronting them and basically saying, there's no love in that. It's not productive. It doesn't help anybody. Okay. And so there you go. Those are my thoughts, my opinions, and it's something I've been thinking about for a while. What do you do with somebody who is toxic and they don't know it? Confront them if it's safe to do so. Okay. So thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. And let me know down below what your thoughts are on this subject. I'd love to hear from you. And I love you all. And until next time, blessed be.